It started on a Thursday night just as millions of Americans were settling in for their evening news. Host Anderson Cooper opened his CNN show, Anderson Cooper 360 Degrees, with what he called exclusive footage, a grainy video allegedly showing pastor, television preacher, and businessman Joel Osteen in a closed-door meeting, making cynical and dismissive statements that contradicted everything he had built his public platform on, his message of hope, prosperity, and divine favor. The clip was short, just 48 seconds, but it was enough to spark outrage, enough to trend within minutes under the hashtag Osteen Unmasked, and enough for anchors across other networks to repeat Cooper's dramatic voiceover. This is who he really is. What Anderson didn't say was where the clip had come from. There was no producer credit, no verification log, no journalist attribution. It just appeared. And in a media climate thirsty for scandal, that was all it took. Pastor, television preacher, and businessman Joel Osteen was in the middle of a private ministry consultation in Dallas when the news hit his phone. Assistant after assistant came up to him, their faces pale. One whispered, "They're saying you mocked your own flock." He didn't flinch. He asked to see the clip, and when he did, he didn't scream. He didn't call his lawyers. He just stared at the screen and said one sentence, "That's not real, and I'm going to prove it because Joel knew something the others didn't." He had never been in that room. He had never worn the distinct silver suit they claimed he wore in the clip. And the words that came out of that AI-generated mouth, they weren't his. Not even close. The battle line had been drawn. Anderson had made his move. Now it was Joel's turn. Joel didn't return to his hotel that night. He went straight to a private tech lab in Houston, an off-the-record operation where former cybersecurity experts and AI ethicists now worked in the shadows, often helping whistleblowers and public figures trace digital manipulation. These weren't government employees. They weren't corporate. They were truth tellers. And that's exactly what Joel needed. "Find me the original," he told them, "not just where it was posted. I want to know where it was created." The team went to work. They ran the Cooper clip through dozens of filters, voice pattern analysis, pixel anomalies, lip sync irregularities, metadata extraction. Within an hour, they confirmed what Joel already knew. It was a deep fake, but this wasn't amateur work. The synthetic voice was trained on hours of Joel's sermons and public addresses. The lighting in the fake meeting room was matched to real venues he'd spoken at. Whoever made this video had access to top-tier generative AI tools and likely government-grade rendering software. The fingerprints weren't technical, they were human. Someone had scripted this. Someone had fed it into a machine. Someone had built a fake version of Joel to destroy the real one. At 2:12 a.m., the team traced the IP trail, not just to a Reddit account where the video had first been posted anonymously, but back to a media group subcontractor that had previously worked with CNN. That subcontractor had recently uploaded training data to a cloud rendering farm flagged by multiple AI watchdog groups. Joel stared at the screen, his arms folded tightly. "Anderson didn't make the video," he said calmly, "but he aired it without asking if it was real." By morning, Joel was on a flight to New York. He didn't call CNN. He didn't send a cease and desist. He called one person, a former CNN production assistant who had once worked inside Anderson Cooper's team and who a year ago had reached out to Joel quietly after resigning. "I told you they'd try this," the voice said when Joel called. "They did the same thing to someone else, but no one fought back." Joel's reply was simple. "I'm not someone else. I'm coming in person." Joel didn't arrive at CNN Center with a lawyer or a PR team. He walked in alone. No press, no announcement, no advance notice. The receptionist looked up, startled. "Do you have an appointment?" Joel smiled, cool and polite. "Nope, but I'm sure someone will want to speak to me once they see this." He held up a hard drive wrapped in a black leather case, evidence time-stamped, and verified by independent AI forensics labs. Within minutes, security was hovering. Joel was firm but composed. "I'm not here to cause the scene," he said. "I'm here because host Anderson Cooper broadcast a synthetic video designed to assassinate my character, and I have the original proof that it's fake. If you think I'm leaving until I've shown that to your legal department, you're mistaken." The tension in the air crackled. Producers were whispering behind glass partitions. Phones were ringing. Anderson wasn't in the building. He was scheduled to host remotely from New York that evening, but Joel didn't need Anderson to be there. He needed someone who could open a door, and one door was about to swing wide open. A woman in a navy blazer emerged from the hallway. "I'm head of editorial standards. Come with me." Joel followed her into a private screening room where a monitor sat blank and waiting. He plugged in the drive and played the clip Anderson had aired the night before, then paused it mid-sentence. "Watch the mouth," Joel said. "It's off by 2 frames. He layered it with the real audio from the timestamped sermon he had actually given that day. It wasn't even remotely similar. Next, he brought up the rendering logs, the ones that traced back to the video's AI engine, showing input files that didn't match any public footage. "This is a fabrication," he said. "Someone made this, you aired it, and your viewers think it's real." The executive leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "What are you asking for?" Joel didn't blink. "Not a retraction, not a correction. I want 5 minutes. Live on your air." The woman stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "That's not how this works." Joel stood. "Number, that's how it's going to work. Or I'll walk out this door and the entire internet will see this data drop along with the internal emails your subcontractor sent to one of your editors, which I also have." It was silent for a moment, then, without a word, the executive reached for her phone. Joel was escorted to a holding room 2 floors below the CNN studio level. There was no window, no clock, just a mirror that felt two-way, but he didn't need time cues. He was locked into the rhythm of it now. His mind replayed each frame of the doctored video. Each moment, the fake Joel uttered phrases he never said. He didn't just want justice, he wanted accountability. With the cameras rolling at 4:18 p.m., a junior producer entered. "You're going live at 5:02. It's being framed as a special editorial clarification segment." He handed him a rundown sheet. Joel skimmed it. "No," he said flatly. "This rundown says I'll be interviewed. That's not the agreement. I speak uninterrupted for 5 minutes. Then you can spin it however you want." The producer hesitated. "Anderson will be joining remotely. He might want to." Joel cut him off. "He'll listen." The producer looked at him like he'd grown horns. He'd seen senators fold in this very building. Cabinet officials had walked out of CNN studios looking like ghosts. But this pastor, television preacher, and businessman who'd been vilified, deep-faked, and gaslit by one of the most powerful hosts in the country, sat there with fire in his eyes and not a single note in his hand. "Your team should check the mic feed," he said calmly, "because I'm not repeating anything." Upstairs, technicians scrambled. The news cycle had already begun to shift. Whispers were leaking on X and Threads. A known AI researcher had tweeted that Cooper's clip bore clear signs of generative forgery. Screenshots of metadata had begun circulating. Within minutes, hashtags started climbing. Now Cooper manipulated. Let Osteen speak. Deepfake news. 5:14 p.m. hit. The countdown started. Joel stood behind the curtain of Studio A as the segment bumper rolled. "Coming up next," the anchor said solemnly, "a special live appearance from Pastor Joel Osteen following the release of footage in last night's broadcast. Stay with us." The light above the camera turned red. The countdown hit 0. Joel stepped forward. The studio was silent except for the low hum of air conditioning and the shuffle of producers just out of frame. Joel stood centered under the key light, chin lifted, hands folded loosely in front of him. No teleprompter, no notes, just 5 minutes and a nation watching. He took one breath and began. "I'm not here to shout. I'm not here to accuse. I'm here because last night on this network, a video was broadcast that showed me saying things I never said in a voice that was not mine, with a mouth that moved in ways no human speaks." He looked straight into the lens. "I don't care who made it. I care that you aired it." A cutaway camera started to zoom, but he didn't flinch. "Let me be clear. That clip was AI generated, fabricated. The people behind it knew it. The timestamps didn't match. The voice model had spectral inconsistencies. And the footage contained composite overlays that don't occur in real human expression. Now," his voice lifted, not in anger but resolve, and for 24 hours it was retweeted, debated, analyzed by panelists who never questioned its origin because they wanted it to be true. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small USB stick. "This is the original recording of my sermon from that day. It's dated, signed, and forensically authenticated. I'm giving it to you now and to the public online where no one can manipulate it. The truth isn't owned by this studio or this host. The truth belongs to the people who heard me say it in person, without edits." Behind the scenes, host Anderson Cooper's video feed flickered on but stayed muted. He sat frozen, lips pressed into a tight line. The control room had already decided. No interruptions. Joel turned to camera 1. If you believe in journalism, if you believe in freedom of speech, you have a duty to correct what was just done. Not with a tweet, not with a chyron, but by saying the words out loud. We aired something fake, and we apologize. Silence again. And then he looked straight ahead and with crystal clarity said, "The next time you use AI to silence me, I won't bring proof. I'll bring consequences." The light dimmed, the segment cut to commercial, but the clip didn't stay there. Within minutes, it exploded online. By the time the commercial break ended, the damage was already done. Only this time not to Joel. The clip of his statement was ripped and reposted across X, YouTube, and Rumble before CNN could upload the official version. Independent accounts added watermarks. Commentary channels were reacting in real time. One popular creator titled it, "Osteen just destroyed AI propaganda in under 5 minutes." Back at CNN, the control room was in chaos. Anderson Cooper's team demanded he be allowed to respond live. Producers whispered urgently in headsets. Legal called up to warn that any further denial could open the network to defamation suits, not just from Joel, but from the public figures misquoted using fake Joel audio. But Joel wasn't waiting for apologies. As soon as he exited the studio, he stepped on to the sidewalk and pulled out his phone. With one swipe, he posted a single sentence alongside the link to the raw footage. "Here's the real clip. Don't let them decide what you heard." The post went viral within minutes. Elon Musk himself reposted it with a single word: chilling. Meanwhile, the AI researcher who had initially flagged the fake video published a 12-point breakdown of how the footage was manipulated. His thread ended with, "This isn't just about Pastor Osteen. This is about all of us. If deepfakes can shape national discourse, journalism as we know it is on life support." Suddenly, the story wasn't just about a pastor, television preacher, and businessman. It was existential. Fox News panelists who had initially laughed off the clip began walking back their comments. The New York Times published a developing piece acknowledging concerns over AI-manipulated footage. Even NPR, usually slow to touch viral stories, ran a headline, "Did AI just cross the line? The Joel Osteen scandal." Meanwhile, host Anderson Cooper's silence began to speak volumes. He had every opportunity to go live and respond, but he didn't because he knew the moment he spoke, Joel's final words would echo louder. And across the country, even his critics began to ask, if they can fake him, who's next? The invitation had the tone of professionalism, but the subtext screamed ambush. Anderson Cooper would like to offer pastor, television preacher, and businessman Joel Osteen a segment to address the recent controversy. Joel read the email twice. His team exchanged wary glances. One assistant whispered, "They're trying to clean this up without admitting fault. They want to control the narrative before it spirals." Joel closed the laptop slowly. "Then let's make sure we write the ending." It was a trap, but it was also a stage, and Joel had no intention of walking in blind. He didn't fly to New York quietly. In the 2 days before the segment, he worked with data analysts, video forensics experts, and digital ethics scholars to map out exactly what had been done to him. The AI-generated smear clip had mimicked his tone, expressions, and even vocal pauses, but it had missed one crucial detail. He had never been in the room the video claimed he was in. He had never uttered a word of what the deepfake said, and now he had the receipts. Studio A was ice cold when he arrived, its silence broken only by the low buzz of production assistants when scrambling to reset cameras and lights. Joel was ushered into the makeup chair, and the tech clipped a mic onto his blazer. His blazer today wasn't accidental. The distinct silver suit, sleek, symbolic, a color he wore during the real sermon in Phoenix, just one of many verifiable timestamps that proved his case. Across from him sat host Anderson Cooper, composed, smile tight, binder resting on the table like a gavel. The stage lights brightened. The countdown started. Anderson led with composure. "Pastor Joel Osteen, welcome. Let's address the elephant in the room. Millions have viewed a clip of you making disturbing claims. You've said it's fake. Why should the public believe your word over the footage?" Joel didn't blink. He placed a black folder on the table, opened it with precision, and began pulling out documents. "Here's my flight itinerary. Houston to Phoenix, dated and ticketed. Here's video from that very day. Public sermon footage, different clothes, different setting. And here," he slid over a USB stick, "is the code used to create your viral clip. I had someone replicate your voice," Joel said. "Want to hear yourself call your own journalism a stage delusion? It's that easy now, but that's the problem, isn't it?" And then he added slowly, deliberately, "You used a fake to silence the truth. I came to restore it with facts, not fear. Host Anderson Cooper was no amateur. He didn't flinch easily, not even under pressure. But something shifted in his eyes when Joel laid down the USB drive. His usual rhythm, tight, practiced, methodical, stuttered ever so slightly. The studio didn't catch it, but America did. Joel didn't gloat. He didn't smirk. He just waited. And then, without warning, Anderson turned to his producer off camera and whispered, "Can we verify this now?" A pause. The screen behind them lit up as the production team pulled the file from the drive. It displayed side-by-side frames, one showing the viral clip that had been passed around every corner of the internet, and the other showing the real footage from the Phoenix sermon, unfiltered, unaltered, time-stamped, raw. The difference was undeniable. The AI smear showed Joel speaking in an empty, opulent chamber, making statements he never made about stewardship, faith, even his own congregation. But the real clip had him standing in a packed arena, answering questions from believers, discussing hope and overcoming adversity. Same face, same voice, but the truth was now unmistakable. Joel leaned forward, his tone dropped to a whisper, yet every word struck like a gavel. "I'm not here to score points. I'm here because you, Anderson, you platformed something generated by an algorithm pretending to be me. You aired it, you speculated on it, you called me deceitful based on software." Anderson opened his mouth, but Joel held up one hand. No one stopped to ask whether it was real. No one verified. And now I have high school kids in Kansas emailing me, asking if I really said what that clip claims. There was a silence in the studio that wasn't just audio. It was moral. Anderson finally broke it. This may have crossed a line. Joel didn't blink. "The line's been gone for a while, you just finally noticed." The crew behind the glass scrambled. They weren't sure if this was the kind of segment you finish or cut to commercial, but Joel made it easy for them. He turned to the camera, not to Anderson. "If you've ever wondered what misinformation looks like, this is it. Not just in the pixels, but in the platforms that let it spread." He stood up. The producer signaled wildly. The director whispered, "Do not cut." But it was too late. Joel had taken the moment and reshaped it into a reckoning. As Joel stepped off the set, the energy didn't just linger. It detonated. Within 30 seconds of the segment ending, the control room was chaos. Producers were yelling over comms, interns scrambling to flag external feeds, and host Anderson Cooper himself remained seated in stunned silence, staring at the frozen split screen on the monitor. AI versus authenticity. But Joel wasn't waiting around to bask in the fallout. His team had already clipped the exact 2-minute exchange and uploaded it to every platform that mattered. X, Instagram, YouTube, even Rumble. The caption was simple, stark, and devastating. "They used AI to smear me. Here's the real clip." It spread like wildfire. Within 15 minutes, Osteen was right was trending above #Cooper Monday. Memes, remixes, breakdowns. Social media turned his truth into a weapon. Not just against Anderson, but against the entire media apparatus that had rushed to judgment without evidence. Even independent journalists who normally avoided televangelist voices had to admit, this is what a factual takedown looks like. Meanwhile, inside CNN headquarters, legal advisors were already in a huddle. Questions of liability swirled. Was the network responsible for platforming AI-manipulated content? Could Joel sue? Would he? The irony was sharp. The network that prided itself on truth in journalism had become the very cautionary tale it used to warn others about. And the pastor, television preacher, and businessman they tried to discredit, dismissed as a televangelist turned fringe influencer, had walked into their den, exposed their blind spots, and walked out with receipts and credibility. Joel, meanwhile, was calm. In the car ride back, he looked out the window, watching as the notifications on his phone, stacked by the hundreds. His communications director, eyes wide, whispered, "This wasn't just a good moment. This was a realignment." Joel replied without turning his head, "This wasn't for me. It was for anyone who's ever been told that clip speaks for itself when it didn't." Back at CNN, Anderson finally broke his silence. He leaned forward, cleared his throat, and muttered off camera, "Book him for next week if he'll come back." The producer shook his head. He already booked himself. The whole country's listening now. By sunrise, every major outlet, left, right, and centrist, had picked it up. Joel Osteen exposes AI smear live on CNN. It wasn't just a headline, it was a reckoning. The clip had surpassed 10 million views across platforms and rising. Political commentators scrambled to reframe their earlier takes. Some deleted tweets, others issued hesitant apologies. But Joel didn't wait for validation. He already had the only proof he needed, the truth in his own voice. On Capitol Hill, things moved faster than expected. Senator Josh Hawley called for an emergency hearing on AI misinformation. Tulsi Gabbard demanded a bipartisan investigation into synthetic political content. Even traditionally liberal voices like Bill Maher and Joe Rogan weighed in, siding with Joel, not because of politics, but because he had done what few ever could, walk into hostile territory and win on merit. Meanwhile, Joel received a message that made him pause. It was from a Fox News producer. "We reviewed the raw feed. You were right. Would you consider coming on next week?" Unedited, full platform. Joel forwarded it to his team with a simple response: "Let them wait." That same afternoon, he published a 90-second video filmed from his phone, unfiltered, standing outside the Lincoln Memorial. In it, he addressed not just his followers, but the nation. "They say ministry is performance. That's fine, but I'm not here to audition. I'm here because too many people don't have a voice, because truth shouldn't need a trending hashtag to be heard. And if they come at me again, AI or otherwise, I'll do the same thing I did last night. Press play and let America decide." By the time the video ended, the crowd behind him, dozens who had recognized him mid-filming, burst into spontaneous applause. He turned, smiled, and walked away. Behind him, carved in stone, Lincoln's words that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. For once, the quote didn't feel like history. It felt like prophecy. And pastor, television preacher, and businessman Joel Osteen, he wasn't just part of the conversation anymore. He was the spark. They tried to erase him with code. They thought one fake clip could silence him, but Joel didn't break. He didn't blink. He brought receipts. He brought the real footage, and with one calm voice, he exposed the truth. Not just for himself, but for every American who still believes facts matter more than filters. In a world spinning with distortion, he stood still. This wasn't about politics. This was about reality. And Joel Osteen made sure we remembered the difference. One truth, one voice, one clip that changed everything. If this story taught us anything, it's this. In the age of AI, you can't trust what you see, but you must trust your own critical thinking. Joel Osteen didn't just fight a deepfake, he fought the instant assumption of guilt that powers so much of today's news cycle. He didn't ask for an apology. He demanded airtime to provide the unfiltered truth. That is a lesson for every single person watching this. What do you think? Did CNN handle this situation responsibly? And what does this mean for the future of journalism and AI? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want more deep dive analyses on the intersection of media, politics, and emerging technology, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We break down the stories that the mainstream media often misses. Thanks for watching and stay informed.